You asked me a very good question, so it needs a longer answer than I can just text you. So I'm going to answer it. You asked, how did I manage to do canning and blanching while I had little ones? And I won't be able to put all the answers into this today, but and don't mind me if I clean my bathroom sink while I talk to you. That's an answer in a way all by itself. There are some jobs that people train for. They're high paying, and mothering isn't one of them. There's not really any training for that. And we assume that it's just a natural ability. They couldn't be wronger, if that's a word. We bring our own inadequacies, our lack of training, the way we were raised didn't prepare us for this. I suppose because people think that we can just do this naturally. So there's three things that I think, three main areas that come to my mind. One is preventing work in the first place. For example, I never wanted to put more juice in a cup or milk or water, whatever, more than I wanted to wipe up. Of course, as they get older and they can wipe up their own messes, they can have more. But that's just an example. No matter how cheap the toy, what a good buy it was, I never bought it if it was something that nobody wanted to pick up. So many little pieces, things that would break. I wanted toys that could expand into something, a project, and that they wouldn't mind picking up. We also had a rule: whoever won the game had to pick up the game, and that was a good rule. But so if people don't want to pick up the toy because there's so many little pieces, it gets buried or put into storage till they are older and not enough to want to pick them up. Of course, training for picking up is part of what's going to help you. So keep things simple, toys simple, but quality. And I don't mean minimalize. Like people who remove every vestige of a toy don't understand that the environment needs to be a place where it stimulates ideas for play and work. So we don't minimalize, but neither do we trivialize. We don't get junkers. Now another thing is, so that's one thing, preventing messes in the first place. And that applies to food as well. Food eaten at the table, I have another video about this, but food eaten at the table and in a set time, and then that's done, minimizes a lot of work, eradicates it, because your food mess all happened in one place. And that saves you a lot of time and a lot of work. So that preventing work in the first place gives you time. And another thing is teaching them to work. One thing is to, I've got some notes here, to play on their own. Now I don't mean unsupervised play, but not that you're the sustainer of the play. You're not the entertainment center. I never wanted to be the entertainment center. Well, maybe I did want to sometimes, but only if it suited the purpose of the plan for the day. And if I had time and I wanted to just play myself. You'll notice that I play with kids as if I'm an entertainment center. That's because I'm a grandma. But when I was a mother, I did too, but in its place. So I taught them to focus on things by themselves without me having to stimulate that interest. I taught them that work could be looked at as play. We need to enjoy our work. Now we're not going to enjoy all of it, so there we need to learn, we need to teach them to stay at it. First they learn to manage the materials, and this is fun. And then we teach them to stick at it when it's not. I did things like, if I was sewing, I let them sort my button box into egg cartons, because they're working around me then, gave me time to sew, and they would play with my buttons or other things that I had that were related to sewing. Then I taught them to sew on a button, or even to use my machine when they were very little. It's not hard, and it's doable. But that got them involved in what I was doing and kept them interested in what I was doing. I broke the work down into bite-sized pieces. I have a big project, but that project can be broken down into little spaces. One thing, when I would be getting prepared for a company coming, if I was having to do a lot of cleaning, that's when accidents happen, or things, they get into stuff because you're preoccupied, right? So instead of being preoccupied, I hand them a spray bottle and a cloth, and we all get at it. They get involved, and then there's nothing happening that I am not able to stay on top of. The responsibility, handing over responsibility starts with helping them in that responsibility, and then turning it over to them bit by bit by bit. I remember, and there's a trade-off. As they got older, they can snap beans. They don't need to cut them. I would read to them at their request. I would read to them while they snapped the beans. So yeah, I didn't get as much done as fast as I could do it, but if I had that number of hands doing it, it was actually faster. And they were happy, and I enjoyed the book too. So I remember sitting out in the shade doing that. And other kinds of garden things. Now, not every garden project is that easy to incorporate into a fun project. But the main thing, I think, is teaching yourself. You can't teach something you can't do yourself. Not very well. And if you train yourself to manage time, to stay current, every minute is a gift. Then that's something you can pass on to them. I actually enjoy the challenge. It's like probably as stimulating as a video game would be to me. The challenge of keeping current, doing what I can ahead of time, so that it frees up time for things that hit me from who knows where, just out of the blue. Something comes along, well, I was on top of it before, so that's not a problem. Procrastinating is not a joke. Everybody struggles with it in one way or another. Some people win, some people don't. Some people maybe give up. But it's an enemy, actually, of your time. It robs you of your energy too. When you put off something, messes that happened earlier and didn't get cleaned up are harder to clean. It's not like cumulatively I can just do it all at once. It's overwhelming that way. Staying on top of putting things away that are that go in the garbage, or like scraping plates so that the food isn't in the sink. Scraping plates and stacking them, rinsing them maybe even, so that when you do it, it's not a big deal. I don't rinse them, I should. It's my water saving thing. Don't waste steps. I used to wear an apron or some way of carting things from one place to another, so that I wasn't just meandering around doing one thing at a time. I was multitasking. So stay current with messes. They're easier to clean when they're fresh. Practice. This is what relates to canning and gardening. Practice ahead of time, carving out time for yourself. Time is your gift. It's what you've got, if you use it well. So you learn this in increments. You don't suddenly, oh, here's canning, now I'm going to learn how to make time. You stay ahead of the crisis in small ways all summer, even when you're gardening. And then, see, gardening, the canning doesn't start, oh, now I've got to do a whole bunch of canning. The gardening starts first. Getting it in there, keeping it weeded, staying at it in small bits, and teaching your kids to follow along with you in it, so that it's not this project that mom will just grit her teeth and go at, but it's something that we do when we want to be outside, or when we need to be outside. I'm not getting the sink done. Oh, my left done. Gardening season provides lots of opportunities for training children and for training yourself to use the minutes, training your workers. I think I've gotten, if you have questions as to specifics, I can remember lots of things, but because I'm making this video, and it's not just going to you, it's going to other people who I think a lot of people have the same issues, questions. Maybe haven't thought of it that way, but I'm not being specific, but we could talk about specifics, or I can get specific in later videos. And objections. Everybody's got objections when we're trying to deal with something that's difficult. Sometimes we get ourselves out of our problems by making excuses or laying blame at our circumstances, or somebody else who isn't doing what they should be doing. But that doesn't go anywhere, that doesn't help us really. It's a dodge. And sometimes we have ignorance or lack of understanding, and that's where prayer helps, and also listening to other people. So we can, like somebody coming right into your situation can see. If they're a faithful friend, they'll tell you what they see. If they're not, they'll just go home and go, she really doesn't do that very well. But understanding is what God gives us. What we really can work at are the true obstacles, and those are the physical things that are around us, the material things that get in our way, or that come up and hit us. Like our work, or the things that get in the way of our work. There are always things we can do, like keeping our cleaning supplies in one place, making sure that we have a place for our garbage that's easy to get stuff into, so that it's not hard to clean up, making it easy to clean up, preventing cleaning up, the need to clean up, and then managing our time so that we do it. Since we don't have large chunks of time, we need to learn to capitalize on the small ones, because each minute is a gift. And each minute is a training opportunity for you to not only train yourself, but your children. They do need help. They like to work along with us, but they don't like to stick at it. And that's where we can work every day, teaching them that skill, so that when they're 12, they don't suddenly go, oh, I gotta stay at this? No, they've learned from 3 or earlier to stay. Now that presumes that you've taught them to obey when they don't want to. And I have a video on teaching obedience instead of manipulating them into obedience. Because you can manipulate kids into obeying, but that's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time and energy, and there are easier ways. So if that didn't answer any specific questions, ask me another specific question, and maybe I'll figure out how to break it down even into more specific answers. My heart is with you, and I know that the benefits and the rewards that are built into this are great. And that's another thing I forgot to mention. It's not, it's a good idea to build little rewards into the training process when they're helping in the garden or any other task that we put them to. Make it pay in some way, not just rewarding with smile or good boy, but also there are other ways, you know. How would you like to be rewarded? Kind of, it works both ways. So I hope I put enough out there. Sometimes I think of the broader picture, but there were many little instances. What doesn't really help to tell you that the specific instances, I don't think, before I tell you the basic principle, because everybody's got different circumstances. Everybody has the same amount of time in their day. And we all have God's help. How we draw on those resources and meet those circumstances, it varies, because everything's different. But there are basic principles. That's why I approached it from that point of view. So, see where it goes from here. Thanks for listening.